Dodge once defined American performance, the 426 Hemi, the Charger, the Challenger. But by the 2000s, nearly 30% of its sales were fleet orders. Research and development had been gutted, and over a dozen models shared parts with competing brands. Dodge wasn't fading. It was being hollowed out from the inside. To understand how it nearly disappeared and what brought it back, you have to start with what made it matter. The mid-1950s brought a new sound to American streets, the deep rumble of Dodge's Red Ram V8. Launched in 1955, the Red Ram wasn't just another engine, it was a statement. Dodge's ads promised the biggest, baddest power under the hood, and the numbers backed it up. Soon after, the 315 cubic inch Hemi followed, setting the stage for a decade where horsepower was king, and Dodge was determined to lead the charge. By 1966, the Charger arrived, turning heads with its canted grille and fastback profile. Factory press releases called it the ultimate personal weapon for the young, fast-moving American. Under the hood, buyers could opt for the legendary 426 Hemi, a power plant so formidable it quickly became a drag strip legend. The Challenger joined the lineup in 1968, offering a shorter wheelbase and even more aggressive styling. Magazine tests clocked it at 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 6 seconds, and quarter-mile times under 14 seconds became a badge of honor. For those chasing performance on a budget, the 1969 Super Bee delivered raw, unfiltered muscle with its 383 and 440 engines. Dodge's Scat Pack, introduced in 1970, tied together these icons with bold graphics and heavy-duty engineering. At its peak, Dodge's muscle cars weren't just fast, they were cultural touchstones, celebrated in magazines, at drag strips, and in driveways across America. The brand's identity was built on speed, attitude, and unmistakable style. That spirit would soon be tested, but for a moment, Dodge stood at the top of the muscle car world. Jack Russell, Dodge's chief stylist in the late 1960s, sketched the first Charger with a canted grille that did more than turn heads. It signaled intent. That grille, angled forward like a battering ram, became an instant signature. Russell's team layered in details: the fastback roofline, the pronounced wheel arches, the shark side panels. Each element served a purpose, blending aerodynamics with a sense of raw aggression. Factory documentation from 1966 even noted that the grille's angle improved airflow to the Hemi, a detail that became legend among gearheads. The Charger's lines, and later the Challenger's compact, muscular stance, set off a surge of grassroots enthusiasm. By 1967, the Dodge Charger Club of America had formed, followed by the Super Bee Brotherhood in 1969. Club newsletters circulated sketches and tuning tips, echoing Russell's design cues and Tom Miller's motorsports guidance. Miller, as Dodge's director of motorsports, pushed for a strong factory presence at drag strips and SCCA events. His efforts paid off. Dodge-badged cars made up nearly a fifth of the field at major drag venues by 1970. Dodge's visual language, bold graphics, Hemi badges, racing stripes, wasn't just for show. It created a feedback loop between the factory and the street. Local clubs adopted these cues, customizing their own cars to match factory racers. The result was a national community, united by a shared aesthetic and a love of speed. In garages, at tracks, and in club parking lots, Dodge became more than a badge. It was a culture, shaped as much by stylists and engineers as by the fans who made these cars their own. By the late 1970s, Dodge's fate was being shaped not just on the street, but in the boardroom. In 1979, Lee Iacocca took the reins at Chrysler and made a bet on survival through consolidation. The company's cash crisis forced a new approach. Dodge, Plymouth, and Chrysler would all share platforms and parts. The Diplomat, Grand Fury, and LeBaron rolled off the same lines, wearing different badges but built on identical bones. What started as a lifeline soon blurred the lines between brands. The pressure to cut spending only grew. By 1998, the Fiat-Chrysler partnership brought the global platform mandate. Every new Dodge model, from the Intrepid to the Neon, was tied to a single chassis family designed for efficiency, not for attitude. Dodge's signature rear-wheel drive was abandoned in favor of front-wheel drive layouts that fit the global template. Models became interchangeable, and the brand's muscle car DNA faded into the background. Financial strain deepened through the 2000s. The 2009 bankruptcy slashed Dodge's autonomy, placing it under Fiat's direct control. The new leadership prioritized Ram trucks and Jeep SUVs, leaving Dodge to survive on limited resources. Internal documents from this era show a stark shift. In 1995, Dodge commanded about 22% of Chrysler's research and development budget. By 2009, that share had dropped to just 9%. Projects that once defined Dodge's identity, clean sheet muscle cars and dedicated performance engines, were now rare exceptions, not the rule. Each wave of restructuring chipped away at what made Dodge unique. Cost-saving decisions and platform sharing may have kept the company afloat, but they also drained the brand's character. By the end of the decade, Dodge's once bold image was at risk of fading away entirely. By the early 2010s, Dodge's identity crisis was no longer an internal debate. It was visible in every dealership and on every sales chart. A company audit revealed a startling number. 13 Dodge and Chrysler model pairs shared more than 80% of their parts. Side by side, the differences between a Dodge Avenger and a Chrysler Sebring, or a Dodge Journey and a Chrysler Pacifica, were mostly cosmetic. Underneath, they were nearly identical, right down to their engines, transmissions, and even dashboard layouts. Dodge's share of retail sales, cars bought by everyday drivers, not corporations, shrank as the brand leaned harder into fleet sales. In 1990, only 12% of Dodge's volume went to government agencies, rental lots, and company fleets. By 2010, that figure had climbed to 28%. The showroom floor, once a battleground for muscle car bragging rights, now felt more like an airport rental counter. Inside the company, the mood was tense. Ralph Gilles, Dodge's outspoken design chief, later recalled that the ability to design a true Dodge muscle car vanished once we were forced to use a shared front-wheel drive platform, and that the engineering constraints were never discussed at the board level. These numbers and voices painted a stark picture. As Dodge's unique models disappeared, so did its relevance with performance buyers. The brand that once stood for raw power and attitude now struggled to stand out at all. For many longtime fans, it felt like Dodge was fading into the background, just another badge on a corporate assembly line. A single decision in the early 2010s changed the course of Dodge's future. After years of blending into the corporate background, Dodge's leadership made a bold choice. Performance would no longer be a nostalgic slogan. It would define every product, every ad, every conversation about the brand. The plan was simple but radical. Build a car so outrageous, so unmistakably Dodge, that it would force the world to pay attention again. The result was the Hellcat. Engineers took a 6.2-liter V8, bolted on a supercharger, and pushed output to 707 horsepower, a number that instantly became legend. This was more than just a fast car. It was a statement piece, the kind of halo model that draws customers into showrooms even if most will never own one. The Hellcat's arrival wasn't subtle. Its name, its sound, and its power figures all screamed Dodge's return to its roots. The brand that once set the pace on the drag strip was back in the business of building cars that made people talk. For the first time in years, Dodge had a product that couldn't be mistaken for anything else. Within days of the Hellcat announcement, Dodge dealers across the country faced a rush they had not seen in years. Showroom traffic spiked, with some locations reporting lines out the door and phone lines jammed by hopeful buyers. The initial order backlog soared past 9,000 units in just the first few weeks, more than double what Dodge had forecast for the entire year. Automotive forums and social media lit up as enthusiasts traded stories about allocation lotteries and dealer markups, fueling the sense that something big was happening. Car magazines ran headlines that said Dodge's Hellcat revives a legend, and mainstream news outlets picked up the story, bringing the brand back into the national spotlight. The Hellcat's 707 horsepower figure became a badge of honor, repeated everywhere from drag strips to late-night talk shows. For the first time in decades, Dodge was not just part of the conversation, it was driving it. The energy in the enthusiast community was unmistakable. Dodge was back, and everyone knew it. Today, Dodge stands as proof that brand identity isn't just a marketing slogan, it's survival. In a market where heritage and innovation clash, clarity of purpose drives resilience. The road ahead will keep testing that resolve. For now, muscle still matters. Let us know your thoughts in the comments.